Hello everyone. A few thoughts about Chag Shavuot, Haba Aleinu Letova. A friend of mine told me recently about a conversation he had with his mother in Israel. Ima, he asked, why do you think the Kadosh Baruch Hu chose China as the source of this virus? And his mother, who's a 91-year-old Yemenite woman who experienced one or two things in her life, gave him an answer that I really connected with, and I wanted to share it with you. China, she said, is the origin of everything that's fake. You can take almost any item under the sun to China, and they'll create a copy for you, a perfect copy for you. It might be very beautiful. It might be uh, accurate, even down to the last speck, but it's still a copy. It's still fake. And Hakadosh Baruch Hu, she said, is telling us, perhaps is telling us, to stop being fake and to start connecting with our true selves. There's no need for all this external side of ourselves, like having these extravagant, eye-popping functions, or buying new flashy cars just so everybody else around us will admire our wealth or the way we look or the places we go to. There's no need for all of this. It made us look at what we have and truly appreciate it. That's what Hakadosh Baruch Hu is trying to tell us, according to my friend's mum. But I really liked the message. I thought it was very insightful, and something that we do need to take in. But the question is whether how many of us are internalizing this sort of message? I keep hearing the phrase, when we go back to normal, then, things will go back to the way they used to be. And yet other people will say, will we ever go back to normal? What is normal? Personally, I don't think things will go back to the old normal. I think we are at a pivotal point in history. We are really living in a historical time, and we are moving into a completely new paradigm. In fact, I had a conversation about it with Sharon the other day, and we thought that this whole saga, which we are going through right now, is very very similar to what happened during the Exodus, where slavery used to be the norm for over 200 years. And then a plague happened, albeit in 10 parts, and all of a sudden we were launched into the quarantine of the desert, which became the new norm with a completely new set of rules, not dissimilar to what we are experiencing right now. Back then, however, after 49 days, we received the Torah, through which we have experienced another paradigm shift where we turned from a bunch of slaves to something that solidified us as the nation of Israel. And I think that today, when we are on the verge of celebrating the giving of the Torah for the 3,332nd time in our history, I do think that we should all verbally ask Hashem to deliver us from this predicament with mercy, and to reveal Mashiach, and to usher his dominion over the world with a complete redemption. I truly believe that we are very close. We are very close to it. But we do need to, not just wish it in our hearts. We should actually ask Hashem verbally every day to bring Mashiach speedily and truly in our time. With that, I'd like to wish you all Chag Sameach, and hopefully we'll be able to get together soon at Shul just like the old norm. Thank you, and Chag Sameach. Bye-bye.
Hi everyone, welcome to Mimi's Kitchen. Compliments of Chabad Glen Eira. You are getting a demo on how I make my artisan bread in 5 minutes a day. So I have 14 grams of yeast, which is the 1.5 tablespoons. I have 18 grams of coarse salt, which is also 1.5 tablespoons. I have 700 mils of lukewarm water, which measures to 3 cups of water. And I have 900 grams of bread flour. You can use all-purpose flour. I prefer bread flour, which measures to 6.5 cups of flour. Okay, so first things first, I'm pouring in the yeast. I've got a bucket here, plastic bucket, that has enough space for the dough to expand as it rises. So here goes the yeast, here goes the salt. No fuss. Here goes the lukewarm water, 700 grams. And now I'm not even going to wait, guys. I found that totally unnecessary. And I'm now adding the flour, which is 900 grams worth, or 6.5 cups. That's done. Use a wooden spoon to incorporate it, and then you can use your hand. And after I've done that, I'm going to put a lid on it. Not airtight, absolutely not necessary. And let it rise for 2 hours. After which point I normally put it in the fridge to rest overnight, which is not necessary, by the way. Okay, you see, guys, I have mixed the dough and just made sure that there is no dry flour lumps left in there. And I am now putting on the lid. I'm leaving this now for 2 hours, and then I can shape it and bake with it. And I just wanted to show you this dough. It has risen for 2 hours now at room temperature. We do have the heating on. It's quite nice and warm in here. So it has definitely even more than doubled. What I like to do personally now, because it is quite wet, as you can see, I like to refrigerate it overnight usually, or for a few hours, and then work with it another day. Cut off however much dough I want and work with it and bake it on that day. Morning everyone, we are back. This is day 2. Here is my beautiful bread dough that has been resting in the fridge all night long. Oh, smells beautiful, beautiful. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put a bit of flour on top, like to cloak it so it's not so sticky, and I'm going to put flour on my board. Okay, and I'm just washed hands, of course. I'm just going to stick my hands in, and I'm going to pull out about, I'd say, a grapefruit size of a loaf, and I'm going to put it on the board, and I'm just going to shape it. I'm going to fold it in, just give it a good fold. So I get a cloak, not a cloak, don't know what you call it, like a good shell, for lack of a better word. So here's my bread dough done. You don't need to work on it more than 30 or 60 seconds. I'm putting some baking paper in a bowl that I have here, and I'm just going to put this in here, and again cover it with a clean tea towel and leave it to rest for about 40 minutes. Okay, Chevre, while my dough is resting, I'm going to put the leftover dough, which, by the way, you can keep up to 10 days. The longer you keep it, the more of a sourdough flavor it'll take on. So this will go back in the fridge. In the meantime, I'm going to switch on my oven and prep everything. This is my cast iron pot or Dutch oven, whatever you call it. Here's another one. Doesn't matter, it's just you'd want to change shape. I'm going to heat the pot up, whichever one I'm using, which is this one, in my oven at approximately 230 degrees. You can wait, since this will take 40 minutes, just be sure to have the oven nice and hot with the pot sitting in it for the next step. Okay, it's been about 40 minutes and I've let the dough rest. I'm going to sprinkle it with a bit of flour, and I'm going to take a serrated knife and I'm going to make some cuts into the bread. I like them nice and deep because that's what's going to give me the beautiful crust afterwards. So here is my pot, nice and hot, don't burn yourself. Taking off the lid, and I'm simply grabbing the dough by the baking paper, obviously, and putting it in the pot, and the lid on top, and back in the oven. On the middle shelf. So I've just put the bread in the oven. I'm going to leave it for about 20 minutes and then take off the lid for the top to brown nicely. It's been 20 minutes in the oven. I am going to take the lid off. This is what it looks like now. And I want the top to crust over. In 15 minutes, I'm going to check if the bread is done. Okay, here we go. Our beautiful bread. Okay, let's just check that it's ready. I'm turning it sideways. Woo! Do you hear that? That's telling me it's ready. Okay, moment of truth. This is the white bread I made. Here we go. Look at that. That's beautiful. Beautiful. Okay, well, there you go. Shabbat Shalom.
The upcoming yard sites for next week, starting from Shabbat till Friday week. Joseph Beckenstein for his mother, Ian Shade for his father, Peter Birnbaum for her father, Ida Klappisch for her father, myself for my mother, Greg Lowe for his father, Izzy Jacob for her mother, Selma Berman for her husband, and Kiwi Valens for his father. We wish you all long life. Upcoming birthdays, Jewish birthdays in the coming week. Jenya Barmakov, Sivan Blitman, Sapir Kohenka, Bernie Davis, Miller Feldman, Brad Grauman, Aaron Malkinson, and Danny Samuels. We wish you a very happy Jewish birthday. Well, why do we eat dairy on Shavuot? There are numerous reasons. I'm sure some of them you've heard, but I think some of them you haven't. So listen up. The first reason is because the Torah is compared to milk. In the Song of Song, it says the sweetness of Torah drips from your lips like milk and honey. It lies under your tongue. So the Torah is compared to milk. Incidentally, it's also compared to honey, and that's why some people also eat honey on Shavuot. A second reason is that milk is a product of blood. Blood is unkosher, is spiritually unclean. After the process, when it's becoming milk, it becomes kosher. it becomes spiritually clean and permissible to consume. This is compared to Torah. The Torah can even purify somebody who was previously spiritually contaminated. A third reason is, we know that Moses was born on the 7th day of the month of Adar. His mother hid him for 3 months. After that, she put him in a basket and put him in the reeds in the banks of the Nile River. Batya, the daughter of Pharaoh, was walking by with her maidens and found him and wanted to breastfeed him. But Moses refused to nurse from any Egyptian woman. Miriam, Moses' sister, who was watching this whole account, came running in and she told Batya that she has a Jewish mother who can nurse the baby. That's when Moses' mother came and nursed Moses and brought him up for the first few years. 3 months after the 7th of Adar is the 6th of Sivan, the day that Moses received the Torah at Sinai. So since on this day Moses was miraculously reunited with his mother through milk, therefore the custom is to eat dairy on Shavuot. A fourth reason is, we know that the Hebrew word for milk is chalav. Every Hebrew letter has a numerical value. So the 3 letters of chalav, chet, lamed, beit, add up to 40, which is symbolic of the 40 days and nights that Moses went up to Mount Sinai after the giving of the Torah. A fifth reason is, in the times of the temple, they brought a special meal offering on Shavuot only called shtei halechem. There were 2 loaves of bread. In order to commemorate these 2 loaves, we have 2 meals on Shavuot, 1 dairy and 1 meat. Because according to halacha, we cannot use the same loaf that we use for a dairy meal to use again for a meat meal. We need to have 2 separate loaves for each. So in order to, so to speak, force ourselves to have 2 loaves, we have 2 meals, 1 dairy and 1 meat. Now, in actual practice, many people don't have 2 full meals. Usually for the dairy meal, they just have a snack like cheesecake or blintzes, and then they have afterwards their meat meal, because it is important to note that on every Yom Tov, it is a mitzvah to eat meat and drink wine if you enjoy it. That includes Shavuot. The dairy meal is actually extra on Shavuot. It's also important to note that there are some people have a custom to wait a half an hour after dairy before eating meat. Some people have a custom to wait an hour. But according to halacha, you don't need to wait at all. As long as you conclude the dairy meal and make the after blessing, you eat something and drink something to clean your mouth, then you can have the meat meal right after the dairy meal. A sixth reason is, in the times of the temple, when the Jews were given the Torah, they were also advised of the laws of kashrut. Now, in order to prepare an animal for consumption, you need to ritually slaughter it. And according to halacha, you need a special ritual slaughtering knife called a chalef, which has no imperfection at all and extremely sharp. Now, to prepare a chalef, it is a very time-consuming and tedious task. It takes a long time. Even after the animal is slaughtered, there are many laws governing the preparation of the animal. We have to remove certain fats. We have to soak it, salt it, and then rinse it again in order to remove all the blood. And then the cooking itself takes a while. So it was simply not convenient after the giving of the Torah to prepare a meat meal. It was too time-consuming. So the Jews decided to have a dairy meal which was less time-consuming. That's why, another reason why we have dairy on Shavuot. A seventh reason is that we know there is a law, and it's actually one of the 7 Noahide laws, that one must not eat something from a living animal. It's called Aver min hachai. So the Talmud asks, if so, why is milk permitted? Doesn't milk come from a living animal? So the Talmud answers, correct. It was forbidden, but when the Torah was given, the Torah explicitly permit milk. Actually, the land of Israel is praised by being a land of milk and honey. So, since on Shavuot, when the Torah was given, milk became permitted, before that it was forbidden. So in order to commemorate this, we eat dairy on Shavuot. I wish you a most wonderful, joyous, and uplifting Shavuot, and enjoy your cheesecake.